On NewsEvolution's, finally we've arrived at NewsEvolution's show on Ascension, and we have with us Patty. Patty, how did you photograph that crop circle with, is it the goddess figure? What is that?
It is the goddess figure. It's a symbol from ancient times, and it's still a symbol in present time. I was sharing a room with Barbara Lamb, who's been in more than 2,000 crop circles. Most people in the field know Barbara Lamb. She is just so much fun. And even though she's even older than me, I could barely keep up with her when it came to crop circles, because there must be something that is keeping people young that are going in crop circles. The day the goddess showed up, we were literally sleeping at a B&B across the street from the very farm where it showed up. And at a B&B, they serve you a complimentary breakfast and coffee and clotted cream. And it's so lovely to start your day with somebody serving you where you can still be in your pajamas at a B&B. So Barbara and I were dressed because, you know, we were going to have breakfast and then go and do circling. And typically I'm there to film, she's there to do crop circle tours, but because we're really good friends and we want to preview where it is we want to film or take our group, she take her group, me film, we would meet 3 days early, share a B&B, and go hunting through all the crop circles. So on the particular day of the goddess crop circle appearing, we get up, we're being served coffee. She says, would you like cream? And she's going, you know, regular or clotted? And I said, oh, clotted, we can't get that in America. And so she says, oh, by the way, there's a new crop circle right across the street. Now we're on Honey Street where, you know, and Barbara and I looked at each other like, wait a minute, you mean like just appeared? And you served us coffee without telling us. I don't remember even throwing the glass, or I hope nothing broke, but I remember Barbara and I went out that screen door, hopefully not through it. We ran so fast across the street like teenagers. You lose all sense of reality when there's a new crop circle, especially if it's across the street. And she said, directly across the street. So for me, it was a message, which crop circles are, but that Barbara and I were there as two of the most intense devotees, probably, of the crop circles from America. That was a real gift. It was also, I think, a signature of the mother connecting with us as divine women with, you know, a solid mission. And there's divine women and men around the world. This is not about me and Barbara, and I'm not, you know, but the fact that we were sleeping there and it happened while we slept was very grounding to feeling kind of special. So we run over there, and there's a really high metal fence, and it's chain link, and we're both looking, and there's nowhere like that's open to get in, so we had to climb the fence. So as soon as I quit looking, nowhere anywhere, and I didn't hear any noise with anything, Barbara's on the other side of the high metal fence. There was no clink, clink, clink of her little feet climbing over, and I was like, how did you get over there so fast? How did you get there? And I'm looking like, I don't know how she did it. That's what I love about Barbara Lamb. Still today, I don't know how she got to the other side of that tall fence, but I climbed it, and it was ka-dink, 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 ka-dink with my big wellies, which are those rubber boots. So if it rains, who cares? You know, if it's a foot of mud, who cares if you got your wellies on? And except when it's like 5 pounds of welly and you're going, which I did plenty of times. But this particular formation, we didn't even know what it was. We get on the other side of the fence. She flew through it. I climbed over it, whatever. But when we walked in it, it's just silence. And the lay, what you see is just perfectly laid wheat. And it was in these, not circles, it was in the body. So it was these shapes that we're not used to seeing. And when you're on the ground, it's like, what is the pattern? We had no idea it was a goddess until somebody flew over, posted the photo. We went to the research center to report the ground shots, which of course I took a lot of photos. And then we saw the photo and it was the goddess. And Barbara and I just looked at each other and went, mm-hmm. So that's the story of the goddess crop circle. And then I flew over, of course, a few hours later in one of those little planes with barely a seatbelt, no door on my side. And I filmed it. You're welcome, because I'm not doing it tomorrow.
Now, what do you see as a connection between the goddess crop circle that you photographed that we just saw, introducing our show today, which is about Ascension?
It's perfect. And I think that everything we're all going through right now is perfect. And I think a lot of us are finding tools that work. And then a lot of other people are choosing blockages that don't. And then there's the other group of people that are just simply under NDA, which means you're not allowed to tell the truth about anything. You're in a closet. Get back in your closet and on your leash. I mean, to me, that's what an NDA, a gag order, is. And the only people that give gag orders are people that are scared of people knowing what they're doing. You don't give gag orders if you're doing honorable things. You don't need to quiet people about who you are. So we're really seeing this divide of people with the Ascension coming because everything is rising to the surface to be healed now. That's why we're seeing so much corruption and all these horrific stories coming out. It's all being pushed to the surface to be healed. Do you agree?
Oh, yes. And one thing in particular, we'll be having a couple of segments in this show. And the first segment is you, Patty. And I'd like to ask you, because you just produced and released your new 9th film, which is free. You're an award-winning filmmaker, and your 9th new film, like Beethoven 9th, is free. It's, by the way, I'm a Beethoven 9th fan, but your 9th film is free, and I happen to see it. It's up on our channel. You can go to ExopoliticsTV on YouTube. You can go to truetube.com and .co rather, and you'll find it. But tell us about that experience. It seems to me that in that experience, you were showing and identifying some of the key forces that are being deployed to try and stall out both individual and planetary ascension, or what some of us call density shifts from 3rd density of consciousness to 4th, 5th, you know, that kind of thing. Over to you.
Some people just call it disclosure. You know, it's like, how many names do we have for our God or our guru? They're all words, they're names, but it's about clearing and cleaning the planet. I don't want to make you mad by saying drain the swamp, but that's one thing you said that's going on now. And I think it's not only going down, but it's also coming up, because you can't clean up a mess if nobody sees it. And when things are this carefully planned, like lack of disclosure or slowing disclosure, or trying to stop ascension with a lot of money and evil people, you can only go so far, because there's still a living earth. There's still a planet that listens and that feels and that pulses constantly with us, around us, and for us. And her magnetic fields are not something to be minimized, nor is our personal plasma field. So all these years when people have said, your thoughts create your reality, well, what they were really saying is, yeah, everything's plasma. And plasma can be used to do amazing, amazing things when we learn to measure it, manipulate it, then we can recreate it, which is like what we discovered in the 8th movie, Crop Circle Diaries. This film, even though very few people have heard of it because of the amazing hacking I deal with, just won the 2 biggest awards in the entire field of ufology last year. It won Best Feature Film, UFO or Related, It also won the People's Choice Award, and there were a lot of people there voting. So I don't say this as bragging in the least. I say this because tonight I sold a $5 stream to Sweden, Denmark, and Israel. So even with all the hacking and the absolutely no distribution, people around the world know about these films. So what's interesting is that we're moving into Ascension. We're moving into a time where it's more about the people's court than the criminal courts, which have been overtaken, much like all the spiritual schools and the mystery schools have been overtaken. The only thing they don't have going for them, the overtakers, is the true magic, which I have in my life. And it's why I'm still smiling. I can't get the dang grin off my face. And it's a combination of things for sure. But right now, people are saying, she can't be smiling. She's got to be faking it. She's being sued for $1 million by these really scary people that, oh my God, I'm so scared of. And how could she be so, it's like, get over yourself. Number one, nobody really knows who I am and what it looks like because they, shall we say, minimized my income for the last 8 years extremely severely. And if it's true what the Gaia employee movement wrote, if any of that is true, that they're hacking me, well then, wow, that's an awful lot of money missing. But again, the punchline of all of it is, I was at an ice cream store the other day, and the ice cream store is filled with books. The walls are floor to ceiling books. I mean, you've never seen anything like it. It's a weird little mountain thing, but you can get excellent ice cream and then sit down and pick a book off any wall, and there's 10,000 books. So I'm sitting there with my partner, who's a really well-read man, and he says, wow, there's a crop circle book on that wall. Now, I had just talked about an interesting story where somebody had written me about the only man that proved crop circles were fake, the Oliver's Castle footage, that I found the binary code. He said that's fake, but, you know, and he still wins awards, and he's a real nice guy with a great English accent. But in fact, he got his information, it appears, somebody wrote, from some obscure couple called Jenny Randles and Paul Fuller, like some really old book. And so I'm reading this like, I don't want to know more, leave me alone. I just want to like some of these people, but people just keep sending it to me because they know I listen and I care and I resonate when it's true. So here I am at this bookstore, middle of nowhere. I'm having ice cream with my partner and he goes, hey, look at that crop circle book over there. Now there's 700 books. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm going to find it, you know, and so I'm like, at least tell me which row, left or right side or middle, because there's 700 books on the wall. He goes, right there, it's the green one. And I'm going, what row? Finally, he goes, the green one. And so I pull it out and I'm like, oh my God, Jenny Randles and Paul Fuller, the book where I just exposed that yesterday. And then I opened it up and it's autographed. I'm like, $6, are you kidding? I'll give you 10. So I go stand in line, and in line, there's a woman wearing a dress covered in crop circles. This is why I'm smiling, because the movies came from spirit. They came from the real magic. They keep shoving it in my face going, no, Patty, listen, you're spot on, you know, and it's so dang much fun. And so that's why I'm still smiling, in combination with you and I are both on C60 Purple Power. So it's kind of hard to mess with somebody who's taking a product that actually balances your brain. But my brain is so balanced that all the people around me are going, no, seriously, you've got to be stressed. And I'm like, no. Number one, I'm innocent. Number two, hey, look at the favor I just did the world and the, you know, disclosure people. Not that one of them has said anything to me. So I want to say something official tonight for the first time. I've made a really beautiful decision for my life, which is I delivered what David wanted delivered. And believe me, you don't write a letter of resignation that deep and thick and long to just the people you're quitting. I think that he did the world a favor. I'm not saying I love him or I believe anything he says. I'm just saying I think he did it intentionally to be explosive because he's leaving and he wants to do what he can to help the world, if it's true. Now, on the other hand, it may be a total lie to frame Patty Greer because they want to pretend that the whole story is that I have a vendetta because my films didn't sell because their viewers didn't want to see them. So that's why in the first 5 minutes of the movie, I quote their lawyer, I quote their number 2 boy, Jay Widener, slander, slander, and then I quote what the lawyer said at the very end of 18 pages of, oh my God, you must be kidding. And the punchline is they both claimed that I'm mad because my films didn't sell, their viewers weren't interested, but I guess they forgot to tell their lawyer that they had pulled my films off Gaia TV, Gaiam back then. And they had pulled my films out of their catalog. Oh, wait, and they had pulled my films off all the distribution that was making really good money. They just removed them completely about 5-6 years ago. And the evidence is in their accounting systems. So if they didn't tell their lawyer that they pulled my films, and that's why their viewers weren't interested because they weren't anywhere to be seen, well, I think, he'll probably learn about the movie, hopefully, unless they hide it. But, it's all right there in plain sight. Number 1, those films had 6 awards when they hid them. Number 2, I haven't seen $1 in 4, 5, 6 years, as evidenced in my, accounting with them. So the whole thing is what it is. And I wish them well on their journey, but I think that they did the world a favor by picking me. But the mistake they made was, even though they say it's because their films, weren't good and they didn't sell and nobody wanted to see them, their problem is it's not true. And what isn't true is that I'm not a good documentarian because I've got 1,600 screenshots on just them. You want to talk about documenting? You want to talk about being a bad filmmaker? That's fine. But the awards don't lie in the evidence. Please leave me alone. I don't want to know more. But people come to me. So I've been here 45 years. I live in a world of magic. I stared a moose in the face at 30 feet last night for more than a minute without an ounce of fear because I do well with the realms of nature. This thing was huge. And then his girlfriend showed up. So I feel like a chameleon at this point in my life because I don't get scared of bullies or people that are just living in a different frequency. I am not up for going to war. My legal team is going to surprise them. And we're going to be answering next week, even though I haven't been served. But I'm going to be very careful about not ever slandering anyone again, unless I begin each sentence by saying, David Wilcox said to me. And I also need to, I think I love this one. My partner always tapes it up. In my opinion, it appears as if. So, in order to play the game of being a reporter in today's world or being a journalist in today's world, we really have to take into account that people that need everyone around them to sign an NDA are not going to like it if you can see through the veil. The thing that I think they underestimated most, they being all cabal, is that there are really a lot of smart people working together, good people. And we share information, and everything I know I've shared. And everything I had, I shared on thumb drives, and they went out everywhere. So this is no longer about me. And I'm no longer interested in the field of ufology. I think we've lost it. When I was beginning and filming, I was working with Bob Brown owning the International UFO Conference, a man of great integrity. And the people I filmed were Robert O'Dean, Dr. Roger Lear, Jim Mars, the greats, Dolores Cannon, people that are really well respected. And all of a sudden, bam, they're all gone. Gee, wonder what happened. How did all of them leave so quickly? Yeah, we're all getting older, but I think that I took action because I'm really concerned about a lot more than just not speaking at gigs, not being on any stupid TV shows with people that have a script. But I think now a lot of those people with a script answer a lot of questions, but then their commentary gets put on a show that they didn't approve. And that's one of the claims that David made. But what's most interesting to me at this point, and it's why I'm announcing tonight, you won't see me speaking any of these gigs. And I'm going to just do shows like ours. I think that this is the new paradigm. This is Ascension, because we still have free speech in this country. And even going after the New York Times and the Sullivan Act, truth wins. And in the long conversation I had with two different lawyers today, mine and another who's loving advising me, both of them said the same thing, which is you can't hold anybody for slander if they're telling the truth. So even though all those big actors are not saying a word now, my witnesses saw them recently at a big party where in front of 25 people, they said everything that David said in the letter and that Jem said, but they won't come forward now. They're scared. Everybody's scared except me and the wonderful journalists like you and many others that are watching this unfold. The only reason I made the movie was because they filed a lawsuit. I didn't need to do it. And I didn't need to share the gem drops. They were very, very damning. But when they filed this vexatious litigation to silence me, they asked for it. Because I know that I'm ready to make a deal. Because I don't care about the field anymore. Because the field didn't show up, not one of them. So either they're all working with Gaia in this unfortunate thing that may be going on, and somebody framed me because I'm the only one not playing those games. But what I will say is this is a subject I have never tackled on any other show. Those words that I'm being hit with slandering, I can't even say it because they're not in my vocabulary. I've never studied this dark religion or these rituals. I've never studied any of it. It never resonated with me as a human. So this is all new to me, but I live in the town of Boulder, Colorado. I've been here long enough to know a lot of people that know them, watch them, and I know more than I want to. So do I think David lied? No, I think David did something pretty ballsy. And then he threw it to Jimmy Church. And then he threw it to a few other people. And then Jem got hold of it, the Gaia employee movement, people that are inside, and they started writing me. And at the end of a culmination of all these letters, they dropped the email from David. And it had already been out before I shared it. So in the beginning of my film, I think my favorite frame was David Icke's statement. And David actually quoted his version of what he thinks about man number 2 at Gaia, Jay Widener, that's been slandering me with these really embarrassing for the company statements. And what David Icke said was, Jay's rule is, quote, that which is suppressed the most is closest to the truth, end quote. So the documentary, I mean, what a great quote. And then Jay does his, Batty Patty makes really crappy films and she's a bad person. And she, if you believe anything, and if she says shit about a company, these are his words, then she deserves to be shut up. Now he's, you know, yay. So, you know, screenshot. He did 3 in a row. Nobody responded. So he answered himself, Batty Patty. And then he answered himself again. Oh my God. I mean, you got to be pretty lonely. So anyway, there's that. Then there's my 5 awards. And then there's the letter at the end of 18 pages from their lawyer who says, she doesn't make good films. Nobody wanted to see them, so we're going to sue her because she's mad at us and it's a vendetta and has nothing to do with us. We're so clean. It's like, really? So, am I worried? Am I scared? Am I crying? No. Truth wins, and discovery is going to be grueling because nobody has an NDA in court. Nobody has an NDA in court. And my legal team knows my concern about the directed energy weapons. So if I have to appear, it'll be a scene because I will demand police escort and nobody in the room other than the person we are subpoenaing. There will be no guests, no audience, nobody with weapons hiding in the back, nobody. Everybody will be very, very carefully filmed and screened coming in that place, and police will pick me up at my house. So yeah, if I have to go through this, I am so well protected. And all you guys writing all these comments, I thank you so much, because 98% of you guys know what's happening, and you're all saying, thank you, Patty. I just want to say, I love you all. You're welcome. I would never, ever, ever do this to get attention, believe me. And I would never, ever, ever lie about getting hit by a weapon at a UFO event when I was taken to the ground at the airport. And then when I got off the plane, I hit the floor in the aisle because I almost didn't believe that I was paralyzed, but I was paralyzed. And I got hit with something that people aren't talking about. It still appears that, oh my God, she's making it up because nobody's talking about it. Nobody's getting arrested for it. But there is so much documented evidence online about directed energy weapons, DEW, and they're absolutely going on, but they weren't supposed to get in the hands of civilians, especially not people that are dangerous. And that's what's happening now. And that's when I quit going to these events. I got hit, and then I got hit again and really harmed. So I'm better now, but it's only because somebody gave me a miracle product, and I have really, really good body workers. Had that not happened, I'd probably be in the same shape as the other 18 people that wrote to me about their experiences getting hit at recent UFO events. And I don't buy it. So I called them on the phone and I said, let's talk. Tell me what happened. This is so bad. This is so bad that I quit going to gigs. That's how bad it is. I loved being a speaker, but I'm done until this gets cleaned up. So I do know about the new Ascension programs. There are UFO events coming that are going to surprise everyone. So we're going to do our best to keep the truth coming, get the movies out that people really want to see, because the technology happening in crop circles is why they're hiding my films. This is one of the ones they're hiding. The Wake Up Call. Anybody listening? Best film, best music, and then 2 other awards in their freezer for 10 years. But you can get it on my website, cropcirclefilms.com, any day of the week, and you can find it on Amazon if you don't mind digging through all their fake ads that some hackers put up for far bigger prices in 7 countries. So I'm not letting it bother me anymore, because there's far better things to do in life, like focus on Ascension. And that's where I'm at. I'm going to play this lawsuit little stupid dance because, you know, I have to. And it took a while to choose my legal team, but they really underestimate the women. That's all I'm going to say. And I hope this goes away before anything else happens. But I think that they're well aware that they made a mistake. I might be wrong, but I would imagine that they're regretting that they filed this lawsuit, because the discovery already has exposed so much. And the letters that have come to me are people that have been dying to talk about it for a long time. So, you know, I don't know if it's true. I'm saying it right here at the end of my little segment. I don't know if David was telling the truth in the letter or lying. But if he was telling the truth, and all the gem people and all the employees on glassdoor.com were telling the truth, then that's why I reacted. I've got a heart that beats. I'm not a zombie yet, nor will I ever be, because I take care of myself and I tell the truth. So I want you guys to not worry about me, and to know that I'm good here. The millions that they, you know, deleted from my income by hiding my films instead of promoting them like they promote David and Corey, you know, that's another story, but it's not like I'm focused on that, and I certainly don't have a vendetta. What I have is an honest caring about humanity. And when you see the end of the film, it's the only time I ever yelled on camera, where and my editor just said, oh my God, that's the ending, cut. And I was like, ah, you know, basically I realized the whole reason I'm doing this, And I look into the camera and I was like, it's for you and your kids and your friends and the field of ufology that's been destroyed. Cut. That's the truth. It's why I did it. I actually care about you guys and I care about everyone. But the field of ufology, I'm kind of over it. There's no more great masters. There's no more people that I want to go see. And the fact that not one of the actors or researchers of other people's great work, or perhaps many of them are real experiencers, but not one of them showed up to say, I need to tell the truth. Patty shouldn't be taking this for the team. Not one of them did. So, hey guys, I wish you luck on your journey. I wish you a whole lot of fun at the corporation. And I'm not mad. I'm just done. So many blessings. My movies will not go away. And who knows? Now that I've got all this time on my hands, there might be more movies.
Well,
over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, thank you. Okay, so now we're on the segment in our Ascension show. So we've transitioned from Patty talking about some of the factors that are now attempting to stall out transition. You know, oh, we're gonna stop Gaia, the planet. We're gonna call ourselves Gaia because we're gonna become the Earth and we're gonna try and stall out the Earth. But I'm sorry, I guess it failed, right? And so now we're going to transition to another part. This is a two-part segment in this show and on our coming show on Earth's ascension in the Omniverse. And so some people call ascension density shift, and that is a shift from the current time-space, third density time-space into a higher frequency in which other factors than time are more important. Things like light and love. So we go from a frequency in time to a frequency to the dimension of love, which is another dimension in the Omniverse in which we live. And so there is historical research to show that planetary and mass individual density shift or teleportation and inner awareness elevation. Another word for ascension or density shift could be inner awareness elevation or teleportation from third density planetary holographic consciousness to fourth, fifth density planetary holographic consciousness is a regularity of soul development in the dimensional ecology of the Omniverse that occurs during the M phase of great years. So that there's research that says, well, when we come around to the end of what are called great years, ascension takes place. And and that is that we have a shift in the holographic reality in which we are from third density of time space to fourth, fifth density. And so that's what the big hullabaloo is now. And a great year is defined by NASA as, quote, the period of one complete cycle of the equinoxes around the ecliptic, or about 25,000, this varies, 800 years, 25,930 years. There's a lot of variables in there. Also known as a Platonic year. Plato wrote about this. one complete cycle of the equinoxes here means one complete cycle of the axial precession, this precession known to Plato, who defined the perfect year as the return of the celestial body planets and the diurnal rotation of the fixed stars, the circle of the same, to their original positions. So the big question is, this is like a meaty question. Da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. You know, I'm a 6 in, number 6 in the Enneagram, which means I'm a questioner. So I always ask questions. It gets a lot of people pissed off, but I ask questions. And the question here is Earth in the end phase of its great year precession of the equinoxes around the galactic black hole? Yes. Is that a fact? No. Is that a not a fact? Or it doesn't matter? Yes, no, it doesn't matter. Ascension as human species consciousness evolution and DNA activation. In other words, we can have human species consciousness evolution and DNA activation separately from ascension. These are two separate things. They aren't the same thing. You can have DNA activation anytime during a 25,920 year great year. Okay, we could be at any place in this 25,000 year cycle and still have human species consciousness evolution, which is what some of us on the planet are feeling now. It seems to me that a huge amount of the world is into war, disease, crime, and poverty, or trying to get out of the effects thereof. And a large amount of the awakening population is into DNA activation, or very curious about it, because that is what C60, or carbon 60, or the fullerene molecule is about. It's about activating DNA. And one of our recent guests, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, just sent me a paper that he wrote on fullerene water, which is water treated by the carbon 60 molecule, which comes to us to Earth through panspermia. This is the result of very large astronomical occurrences like a supernova, and then the C60 model comes to Earth through panspermia, and it's discovered by our science and given a Nobel Prize in 1985, and then gradually is getting introduced and absorbed into the alternative science community. And so it's brought to us by panspermia, astronomical phenomena. And so, but as we go forward, it's important to understand that there's a distinction between the question, are we really at the end of a great year? And is this really ascension? Or are we being sold a bunch of hype by an industry that needs to make money? Is it that, and we can reach DNA evolution anytime during the great year through intelligent application of elements that are brought to us through panspermia like C60. See, this is how scientists think. Now let's go to the next slide. Okay, let's look at the evidence for yes, the Earth is at the end phase of the great year. And that is being sold to us by an industry that is out making money on conferences that says, yes, we're at the end of ascension. We're at the end of the 25,000 year cycle, and come to our conference, buy our book, and you'll ascend. Ha, ha, ha. And it doesn't matter what our moral behavior is, just so long as we follow the NDA, and we win our settlements, and we negotiate 6 or 7 figure salaries, well, we'll ascend and we'll be rich here and in heaven. Boop. I've never heard of that before. In fact, Christ says it's harder for a rich man to get to enter heaven than for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Well, let's go. Here's David Wilcock. Multiple ancient tests claim that the sun would release a great surge at the end of the cycle. This energetic surge was apparently the mechanism that would trigger a mass ascension event on Earth. Multiple sources have also confirmed that this event is not set to occur on any fixed date, but occurs in response to a mass shift in consciousness on Earth. David Wilcock, Ascension Mysteries, page 262. Density shift is the foundation infrastructure of ascension dense cloud of highly charged particles. Quote, the greatest secret that these insiders have shared with me is that a massive energetic shift is happening on Earth. We are apparently moving into a dense cloud of highly charged energetic particles in our galaxy. The zone of higher energy is having an effect on our consciousness as well as our DNA. A convergence of sacred texts refers to an event involving, quote, an incredible release of blinding bright light from the sun that utterly transforms us into a new level of human evolution. David Wilcock, Ascension Mysteries, page 71. So that is the key evidence that David Wilcock presents in his book, Ascension Mysteries, page for the fact that we are entering ascension. That's the key physical evidence that he presents. If we shift over to the law of one, this is the key evidence that another member of the exopolitics UFO industry, Michael E. Sala, PhD, in his book, Insiders Reveal Secret Space Programs and Extraterrestrial Alliances, on page 5114 in Kindle, he says, the law of one, planetary density shift for the collective of souls on our planet Earth occurs roughly once every 3 great years. That is, once every 75,000 Earth years. And so what Dr. Michael Sala says is that not only right now in 2018, more or less, come to our conferences, not only are we at the culmination of 1 great year, but we haven't had this for 3 great years, 75,000 years, 3 25-year cycles, and boy, are we going to have a huge planetary ascension now. And Dr. Richard Alan Miller says, here is the end phase is irrelevant. In other words, here are some people that says it's irrelevant to Earth if the Earth ascension is irrelevant if the Earth is at the end of an end phase of the great year. Dr. Richard Alan Miller and Gary Peter Carlson say that. Dr. Richard Alan Miller says, it is a sigma event, 99.95%, that the Earth's ocean currents will have to reboot as soon as by 2020, and there'll be possible catastrophic flybys. And what he says by that is that there are moons of our dwarf dual sun that are in the solar system to the level of 99.95% by the year 2020. And we're now in the year 2018. And ascension, according to Dr. Richard Alan Miller, and you can see Dr. Miller's statements in a webinar at ExopoliticsTV, TrueTube.co, NewsInsideOut.com that we just did just quite recently, which has gone viral. Ascension means an inner expansion of the state of mind of the individual from duality consciousness, I win, you lose, to unity consciousness, we are one. And you can watch Dr. Richard Allen Miller on TrueTube.co with Alfred, Lambremont, Webre. Again, that is the web address. And also Gary Peter Carlson. He says that we will have planetary ascension in the years 2018 to 2020. Our choice is a planetary ascension in the years 2018 to 2020, or if that doesn't happen, we will have an Ibero flyby followed by only 10% of humanity's individual ascension sometime between 2025 and 2029. And so it's time now, if we want to accelerate ascension, to start ejecting elites with reptilian souls out of power. It's clear to me that the current CEOs of Gaia.com, CEOs of most nation states, courts, banks, all of the Anunnaki institutions, which are about money, about banking and religion, are headed up by networks of people, of human bodies with reptilian souls, not human bodies with human souls. It's a kind of a system that the reptilian souls have for controlling this planet. You should listen to Gary's webinar. It's very interesting. And so you can best assist planetary ascension during 2018 to 2020 before any Planet X Nibiru brown dwarf flyby can be created through vibrational stall out of planetary ascension due to reptilian souls in human bodies in institutional authority. And I recommend that you watch Gary Peter Carlson on TrueTube.co with Alfred, Lambremont, Webre. So a lot of people that are coming forward. These are called wanderer souls that are coming through the planet with all these ideas, and you actually have the free will to say, whoop-de-doo, I'm not going to get stalled out here. I'm going to go with the truth, and bingo, you start moving into ascension. Now, let's look at the third alternative. And the third alternative is that, hey, guess what, folks? You're being sold a bill of goods by an industry that, to make money along with the dark matrix, because they always like to fool humanity, says, oh, you're at the end of a great cycle, like David Wilcock says in his book, and in the Gaia.com finance conferences that they all go to. Oh, you're at the end of the great year, or like Dr. Michael Salas says in his books, you're at the end of the super great year. Every 75,000 years, oh, yep, buy my book, you're at the end of it. Well, no, this is the third alternative, which says, no, I'm sorry, you're not at the end of the great year now. You'll be having a good time, but that's just because we came out of the Kali Yuga into the Dwapara Yuga. And boy, using a little directed energy weapons and some mind control, they can really make you American, especially Americans, because you're also mind controlled by the, shall we say, directed energy weapons and chemtrails and that Rockefeller TV memes that they just have you coming and going all the time. I mean, anybody that buys hypoglycine and puts it in Cheerios, gives their children that, they're crazy. No, well, look at this. this is actually teachings that are closely held from the inner earth, and they are released to the surface population. And this was developed by the inner earth and was released to a Buddhist monk who released it to the surface about 40 years ago. And Sheldon Moore, a Canadian author and researcher living here in the Okanagan, with whom we've held about, maybe 8 or so webinars exploring this, and people can go to ExopoliticsTV and they can go fully on this. And this describes the dual sun great cycle of 25,000 years. And this is based on actual deep research from the inner earth. And now it's released to the surface population. And so Exopolitics TV has been the chosen vessel for transmitting this further through the Buddhist tradition, through Sheldon Moore and onto you guys. And if you look at it, we actually have 2 stars. Most solar systems in our galaxy and universe are actually dual star. And so that here's a great circle, and at the top is 1 star, and at the bottom is the other star. And when they are maximally separated, they are about 12,500 years apart. So that's about 26,000 years. And so if you just follow me going around, when they're maximally separated, that is what we call the Kali Yuga. And that is where there's 1/4 virtue and 3/4 sin. In other words, that's where things are really, really bad. And if you come down here, when we were down here, you can see that Buddha came when things were almost at the top of the Kali Yuga. That was 346 BC. And then Jesus came at 280, almost at the height of the Kali Yuga, when things were falling apart on earth. Jesus came, Paradise Son of God, an extraordinary mission, kind of as the advanced paratrooper, landing the divine back on earth that had been infected of Lucifer rebellion and the reptilian intervention for about 250,000 years. And then, so now we passed over here, and according to this, right now, when we pass over here, on a clock, we're at about the 20 minutes into 20 of, and we passed over into the Dwapara Yuga. The Dwapara Yuga is where things are half virtue and half sin. Normal human stature is about 7 cubits, and the average human lifespan is 1,000 years. During the Kali Yuga, normal human stature is about 3.5 cubits. That's about what we are, about 5-6 feet. And the average human lifespan will be about 20 years to 100 years. And that's what we're coming out now. So as we enter the Dwapara Yuga, which is, we're just entering it now, and we'll be in there for a while, we're going to go right up to 1,000-year lifespan. And that isn't at all eating up the rest of the time. We're only about 20 minutes up to the top of the hour when we get to the real golden age, which is the Satya Yuga. That's where the 2 suns are together. And that happens once every 26,000 years. And we are maybe about 9,000 years away from that in the Dwapara Yuga. We still have to go through the Tetra Yuga, which is 3/4 virtue and 1/4 sin. Normal human stature is 14 cubits. In other words, we're maybe about 12 feet tall, 15 feet tall, and we're average human lifespan is 10,000 years. Up at the golden age, we're going to be 21, we'll be about 25 feet tall, and we're average human lifespan is going to be about 100,000 years. In other words, we're in 5D. Now, in Ascension, that is. Now, the extraordinary thing is that the paradox is that the portals for Ascension open up, yes, at the Golden Age portal. So this portal will be opening up within about 9,000 years or so, when the two stars come together. And there's a great paradox there, because I like to liken, and you'll see as we go through an understanding of the Omniverse, universes are machines for the development of souls. They're like big washing machines for souls. And you've got your wash cycle, your rinse cycle, and your spin cycle. And let you know, so that when we come up to the end of the great years, we've gone through the wash, we've gone through the spin, we've gone through the rinse cycle, we've been through every kind of incarnation that there is. We burn out all our karma. We're ready to ascend. But those who are still stuck on war, disease, crime, and poverty, they're still acting out, they haven't quite developed. Well, they need to go around again for a little more wash, rinse, and spin cycle. So the paradox is here that as you go up there to the golden age, it's golden age for the ascension, those who are ascending either on a planetary basis, which happens very seldom, or an individual, is the same for those who hit their walls and then go back down into another cycle. So that's why the golden ages can be great for ascension, but it's also people hitting their wall maximally. Now, this model says, guys, I'm sorry, what you're feeling is the differential effect from having been in the Kali Yuga so long, and now you're feeling the differential effect of hitting the Dwapara Yuga, where there's 1/2 virtue and 1/2 sin, and you're no longer under the Kali Yuga. You're in some more energies, and you're starting to expand. And there's just a lot of attention on the earth, because there was a particular diabolical incursion with World War I, World War II, with the certain portals opening there with atomic weaponry. And that's gotten everybody in this galactic neighborhood worried, because nuclear weapons can wipe out interdimensional cities. And so there's just a lot of attention here, which is highly circumstantial to the earth. It's not part of the generalized great year type of ascension. So this, which is ancient teachings from the inner earth, blows the industry, commercial, David Wilcock, Michael Salla, oh, let's promote ascension, let's have all of our book sales, let's have all of our conferences, let's get everybody into the phony baloney ascension, and blows it out of the water. This is about true consciousness, to develop it in accordance with what's really happening inside the cosmic washing machine inside which we find ourselves. So how is it that that model has been sort of really hidden esoterically, or communicated esoterically over the ages? And the way they have done it, it's been hidden in the yin-yang symbol, an Earth surface society. That is the yin-yang symbol. Those are the two suns. And that is how that hidden knowledge has been transmitted in the surface society to the inner society. So we have the Kali Yuga, 1 part virtue to 4 parts sin, the Dwapara Yuga, 2 parts virtue to 2 parts sin, and the Tetra Yuga, and finally the Golden Age, 5D, all virtue and unity consciousness. But we're still at about the 40 minutes past the hour, 20 minutes up to the hour. We're still about 9,000 years away from any kind of ascension. So let's look at some more evidence about Earth's ascension in the Omniverse, which means that, oh, Earth's ascension in the Omniverse just means that we're shifting from the Kali Yuga to the Dwapara Yuga, which was the advanced teaching of the Blue ETs. The Blue ETs were the same ones that were deprogramming the sentient AI, the black goo embedded in the sentient AI underneath Tool Island. They were doing it from the beginning of World War I, so that which had been left there as a doomsday device by the invading Draco and reptilian Anunnaki. And what happened was that in April to June 1982, the UK under Margaret Thatcher and the US under Ronald Reagan invaded that as part of the Falklands Islands War, because they wanted to get part of the AI to weaponize it. And so here we have a predicted 2013 global coastal event occurred along another global catastrophic timeline. There was a June 2013 global coastal event predicted by Edgar Cayce remote viewing, which seemed consistent with in 1971, there was a June 2013 DARPA chronovisor probe by US chrononaut Andrew D. Basiago, which went from 1971 to June 2013 in a DARPA chronovisor and found the US Supreme Court in June 2013 under 100 feet of brackish water. And in 2010, the Farsight Institute, using remote viewing, went to the year 2013 and found Washington, D.C. underwater. So you had Edgar Cayce finding Washington, D.C. and a lot of places underwater in June 2013. You had DARPA in 1971 because of a chronovisor probe finding the US Supreme Court building in June 2013 under 100 feet of water. And you had a 2010 Farsight Institute remote viewing finding the US Supreme Court building in June 2013, Washington, D.C., under 100 feet of brackish water. So, oh my God, if you were back in 2010 or back in 1970s, why you would say, oh, this is catastrophic timeline. So what happened back in 1971? Richard Nixon and the national security state took $2 to $3 trillion and built all these deep underground military bases for all the elites, because they thought that in 2012, 2013, there's going to be this great catastrophic timeline and all the surface population is going to be killed off. But guess what happened? The positive timeline and unity consciousness intervened. In 2012 to 13, Dr. Carl Joseph Kalaman, an expert on the Mayan concepts of time and cosmology, stated in an interview with me, quote, "The universal alternating energy wave movements end, and the Earth is set on a gradual setting of a potential to reach advanced utopian planet status, a virtual Garden of Eden." Dr. Kalaman writes the positive timeline envisions 2012 to 2013 and the years that follow as, quote, "2012 heralds Earth entry into the golden age, and between now and then is a time of transition from life, and as you have noted, into life totally in harmony with all of nature." How does that relate to what Patty Greer has just been saying in segment 1? Well, in 1987, Mary Houston and I, who were then doing 3 or 4 programs a week at WBAI in New York, did the harmonic convergence program on the NPR satellite out of the Boulder, Colorado NPR station, which NPR stations throughout the United States downloaded. We were interviewed by the Washington Post. It was the Washington, D.C. NPR station took and Higuera Arguelles got up and said the same thing that Dr. Carl Joseph Kalaman said in 1987. He said, here we are, and we're downloading the positive timeline. So then what happened in 1988? Well, a Czechoslovakian Olympic guy over in Czechoslovakia, which as you know, in 1968, the Communist Party had gone in there, and then in 1988, Czechoslovakia still, through the Congress, it was a communist country. Well, somehow one of their Olympic guys, a guy named Jurga Rysavi, ended up in Boulder, founded Gaia.com, supposedly about the positive timeline, but they didn't say anything about the harmonic convergence. No, they brought in other ceremonies that we know about the negative gods. Nope, no positive timeline for them. Now, let's talk about planetary and mass density shift and AI, artificial intelligence infestation. That's why I call it not Gaia.com, I call it Gaia.communist, because it comes from communist Czechoslovakia. And that's where the CIA from. CIA and communism goes together. I knew that. I learned that in Cuba. Fidel Castro used to come to my grandmother's house for Sunday dinner. And he's a creation of the Jesuits and the communists that work together, because the communists, as we all know, were all Bolsheviks, mainly out of Brooklyn. Now, planetary density shift and AI, artificial intelligence. Now, listen to this, and you'll begin to understand what we're talking about. Ascension, in the special cases, which may be now, ascolta, and you might learn something. Ascolta! You're not going to learn it at these conferences because you've just learned what fraud they're teaching you at these conferences. Ascension may be the planet's systemic response from a time-space third density, which a sentient, invading, inorganic, pathogenic, predatory PPAI, artificial intelligence, and duality consciousness, I win, you lose, ecocide, genocide, omnicide, has compromised to a unity consciousness, we are one, love-based, fourth, fifth density. This is a systematic way of how higher order universes assist in the process of soul development on planets such as Earth that have been targeted by third density AI, artificial intelligence. Density shift is teleportation to a more advanced density or dimension of consciousness, and is a specific mechanism for soul development through incarnation of souls and bioavatars in a universe. This AI-triggered density ascension may be an emergency planet-saving intervention, and O2, synchronous with a great year, or yugas that are cyclical portals opening every 25,920-year cycle. Now, is this the end of a great year, or are we about 9,000 years away from the end of a great year? I don't know, the jury's still out. But are we in danger of an AI-triggered density ascension, or that is, are we being prepared for an emergency planet-saving ascension by an AI-triggered density ascension? And that is sort of an escape mechanism that a planet, which is a living entity, has to ascend to the next density when a pathogenic, predatory, invading, inorganic, sentient AI is threatening to take over and effectively kill the living consciousness of the planet. That may be more accurate what the situation is here, thereby cutting short the usual great cycle year of this planet. So let's look at what planetary and mass density shift and the factors that yield, in this case, the negative devolution of souls that seems to be happening in many parts of the planet. You see a lot of devolutionary behavior, people going into thoughts of separation, thoughts of fear, into racist thought, xenophobic thought, thoughts of war, disease, crime, and poverty. They're the farthest thing from unity consciousness. They descend in vibration, and whole groups descend in vibration, and it becomes okay to descend in vibration, and they have comfort in descending in vibration. It's kind of devolution instead of evolution, but it feels comfortable because everybody's devolving at once. And when you have reptilian souls like, hey, leading you, hey, it feels real comfortable, okay? So you have planetary mass density shift and negative devolution of soul evolution. Okay, here you have Archonic, AI, Draco, Anunnaki, Reptilian Soul Alliance versus human soul evolution and sovereignty. What else do you have? Oh, you have dissolution of 4D Saturn Moon matrix. Well, that's good. That tends to accelerate. You have abrogation of secret treaties with Draco, Anunnaki, Reptilians, and Orion Greys. The treaties that are out there are 1933 FDR, 1948 HST, 1954 Ike, and Tau 9 Bush. If those can be abrogated, it'd be good, because the only reason that the Americans have 175 bases and are nominally the great superpower, all that's falling apart, is that they signed all these treaties with the Dracos, and the Dracos said, okay, US, you can be the king of the mountain, but all you are is the front guy for the Dracos. And that's all the Americans have been, is the front guys for the Dracos. It's not the be all and the end all civilization. The Iranians have been around for 3,000 to 4,000 years. They're the ones who run the planet. The Americans are just like one walking ego ping pong game, to use Pizzagate lingo. Remember that? Abrogation, okay, deconstruction of Anunnaki occupation tools. Okay, to the extent that we surface humans can deconstruct the Anunnaki occupation tools, which are money, government, and religion, the freer we'll be. The ejection of reptilian souls from human authority roles and bringing humans as head of as occupying, human souls occupying our authority roles, so that we have, sane policies, so that the authority roles aren't always putting down humans, trying to depopulate us and really screw us over. Now, listen to this. This comes from Gary Peter Carlson's research. It's objective research. Listen to the webinar, but don't diss it without listening to the webinar. 41% of persons self-identifying as Jews on the planet have reptilian souls, or self-identifying as Jesuits have reptilian souls. 41% of persons self-identifying as Jews have reptilian soul. Now, that means that 60% of people self-identifying as Jews have human souls, so they're good. But 41% of people self-identifying as Jews have reptilian souls. They have lack of empathy. Versus 2 to 17% of persons self-identifying as other races have human souls. Criminalization of the war industry. I'm a war crimes judge. By criminalizing the war industry, you can really accelerate the evolution of consciousness. Now, it's not your end of the great year ascension if we're not at the end of a great year cycle, if we're just transitioning from the Kali Yuga to the Dwapara Yuga. You get my drift? Let's have sensible, science-based, exopolitics-based science of the Omniverse that we'll be teaching at omniversity.info that is starting up for its fall, winter semester in the fall of 2018, omniversity.info. Disenfranchisement of the state power of monarchies and religions worldwide. No more monarchies and no more religions that are given state power, like the Vatican. World debt forgiveness. Debt is just something that we're just paying off their, their false energy, like through the Federal Reserve. The reinvention of money as a human right and public utility, like air, water, or electricity, available for creative investment at public money utilities. Secure online direct democracy at the local, regional, national, and global level. This is the Swiss model. They get together in the village square, Swiss cantons, and they all vote. There's no middleman like a city council, like a state legislature, a provincial legislature, national congress, a national parliament. They're middlemen that can be bought out. No, if you can run sophisticated wars, out of smartphones, you can vote without being hacked. And have the people vote on legislation. Recognition of animals as sentient beings with rights, implementation of planetary and interplanetary teleportation as a global, national, regional, and local transportation system, new energy, new teleportation and time travel, human sovereignty, truth, disclosure, participation, and access. All of these are platform issues that accelerate planetary and individual code evolution, expansion. And you can find all of this at positivefuture.info, in which you'll find my platform, because I'm seeking your support to be Earth's representative at the Regional Galactic Governance Council. As Bucky Fuller said, pick out a job that nobody's doing and go for it. Well, nobody right now is running to be Earth's representative at the Regional Galactic Governance Council. So that's what I'm doing. Go to positivefuture.info. Okay, so this is the last slide of part one, and then we'll meet you on the flip side at next week's show. Internalizing the Omniverse accelerates planetary density shift. Planetary density shift involves a complex dynamic interaction of the dimensional ecology of each specific cosmological body of the Omniverse. A specific universe, the multiverse, which is the collection of all universes in the multiverse, and the specific intelligent civilization of souls in the spiritual dimensions. That is why planetary density shift is such a powerful event in the history of a planet and a community of souls. And if it's happening in 9,000 years, hey, we need 9,000 years after, at least 26,000 years of oppression and abuse by our reptilian taskmasters to get ready for it. Understanding the Omniverse expands our awareness of its dimensional ecology and can accelerate and widen the extent of planetary density shift by earthling souls in a single planetary density shift, which may or may not be occurring in our current lifetime. So there we are. I'm back again. Patty, would you like to comment or?
Yeah, that was a wonderful history of what Ascension can look like. And I think the most important thing that I want to leave all you listeners with is that Ascension is an inside job. Evolution is an inside job. And if somebody's offering you spirituality for only $1 a day, sounds like a bargain, but nobody's going to be able to really deliver to you consciousness. You're going to have to find it within yourself, and there are tools. There is so much available, and even with all the suppression, the tools are here. So if you will start really going more into your own heart and start using your discernment more so that you can start seeing what's real and what isn't, because I'm about to leave you guys as far as telling you what I think is real, because I think I've done my job. And I'm not going away on the air, but I'm not going to be doing the physical conferences until everybody grows up. And that's a big statement. You know, we've got a lot of growing up to do as elders and as teachers and students, all of us. So it's an inside job. You're not going to be able to buy it or read it in a book. You're going to have to really reach into yourself and start opening your mind. But I also want to say, I'm watching you, and every time I see you, you look younger. What guys would do for your hair? I mean, you're a few years older than a lot of us, and you haven't lost a hair. I mean, but your skin, it's like every time I see you, you have less wrinkles. You're speaking more clearly. And I remember a year ago when you were dealing with your getting hit by a DEW weapon, you were having a hard time communicating. And I was having a hard time walking. But we both got on C60. C60 Purple Power is what I'm using. Which brand are you using?
Yeah, this is C60 Purple Power. And
Same one.
in a sense, you can say that NewsEvolution at TrueTube.com is a news program brought to you by C60PurplePower.com, because I can honestly say that this program could not be brought to you were it not for the DNA expanding capacity of C60PurplePower.com. And we had one of our Patreons. People can actually go to Patreon, and if they want to sign up and help support this program, they can sign up. And one of our Patreons wrote me. She said, "Oh, Alfred, you know, I can't believe." Said, "You look 20 years younger. I want to know if I'm taking as much C60 as you." And so I wrote back to him and said, "Well, you know, I take 1 milliliter, because I'm very exact. I use science, and you can get these eyedroppers that use 1 milliliter, and 1 milliliter is about 1/4 of a teaspoon. So I take 1/4 of a teaspoon of C60 every morning on an empty stomach. I also use medical cannabis, a special capsule here in British Columbia. You know, hey, what can I tell you? Canada's motto is God's country. You know, we're God's country. That's Canada's motto. Okay? No matter how much you Americans want to badmouth Canada, I'm a Cuban American Canadian, a proud Canadian Chisholm, whose family motto is Fedos Fedios, the fiercest of the fierce. So I take that, and then I use my beamer, which is like a rifle machine, in the morning and at night for about 15 minutes. Because you have to activate your DNA. And the deployment of so many of these negative directed energy weapons by negative Luciferian actors and Luciferian-led corporations is trying to suppress DNA and throw it back into fear, which is false evidence appearing real, in order to slow down the expansion of human consciousness. So we at News Evolution at TrueTube.co are dedicated to the expansion of human DNA. And that's why this is a newscast that's brought to you by C60purplepower.com. Literally, I think. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Well, clarify, that company is not paying you and they're not supporting the
No,
show. You're
they
just
aren't-
saying
they- no,
your
aren't
brain
paying me.
wouldn't be
They aren't
working.
paying me, and they aren't supporting the show. What I'm saying is that the positive benefits of the fullerene molecule, the carbon-60 molecule, are such that they activate your DNA, that at these times, it is very beneficial to the expansion of consciousness and of general activity, which permits the energetic gathering and delivery of news evolution and evolutionary news in a wonderful new and knowledge expanding perspective. How's that?
I love it. And you know, if we keep at it and it keeps working in reverse with our age, we're going to start getting carded again. How fun is that going to be at 80 or 90 years old?
Hey, listen,
Hi, I need to see your ID. Really?
yeah, I'm my own grandpa. I actually, you know, it's going into those time paradoxes. Well, I think this is great. We have seen part one of Ascension in the Omniverse, and next week we'll see part two. And I found it very interesting doing the research and actually learning that there's this whole industry. I can see now why you made the decision to leave an industry that's making all these great pronouncements and, you know, has you come and spend so many books, $300 on a hotel or something, to learn that the Ascension is here and that it may not even be here. That's false information. And not only that, but they have armed guards. I remember I was invited to speak at the first contact in the desert. I got there, I was afraid for my life. They had armed guards up there and they were talking about UFOs and they had guys with armed guards. I mean, that is ugly. I think that is ugly, and that is led by matrix-bound energies, okay? I've never been to conferences where it's de rigueur to have armed guards there. It's horrible. And so that's what I think. It's a sunset industry, and let it go around for another 26,000 years. That's my judgment. I'll tell you that.
My judgment is that everything is coming to the surface to be healed, and we're almost there. So I say we're winning.
Yeah, of course. And as they say, you don't break the law, you break yourselves against the law. And we're talking cosmic law here. We're not talking like laws that your city council made.
No, that's why when I said I work in the world of magic, that this book jumped out to my boyfriend out of a wall of stuff when I had just dropped the story. It was too good to be true. And then I stand in line behind a girl in a crop circle dress. Seriously, it happens so often to me that the earth herself and all the others just say, Patty, here's another one, catch. And then, you know, it's nonstop. So for that reason, I will stay into the magical part of it, the real magic. But as far as the drama and trying to bring something back to life that has, in my opinion, lost its color, I think it's just time for the new. And that's, to me, what Ascension is. We're moving into the new and the next. It's not about dragging the old and rebuilding it. It's about letting all that go and creating the next. And that's where I'm at. And I will not be silenced. But I'm going to be a lot more graceful with the words that I say and a lot more careful on a legal in my opinion, it appears as if, and so said this, I didn't. And then I can drop the news. But until then, I've learned a good lesson, and I'm really smiling from my heart. I am so not feeling like, oh God, or I don't have any money. It's like, thank God that's not my life. Thank God my life is working with the earth, gardening barefoot, and telling the truth. And I think, what we know is that nothing wins in a court of law except truth. And, that's anyway, I believe in the good of all humans, and I'm watching this earthquake, this volcano of everything coming to the surface to be looked at. And clearly, everybody's got to start looking and seeing and listening to get to the other side. It can't just be you and I going, "Wah!" all the time. It has to be everybody else standing up and telling the truth also. So I think we're almost there. I feel like 9,000 years, no, I think we have an opportunity now, and it's an inside job. So everybody out there, do your work. Look at the possibility of starting to do what Alfred and I are doing, why our skin is all of a sudden a lot better and our brains are functioning. And I've never been like this. My clarity, I can't even get a bad mood. It's like I want to get the smile off my face, but I'm actually kind of getting good at it and used to it. No, I'm not stressed out. Everybody's writing, you must be so stressed. It's like, no, I'm so well and so healthy and really happy to be doing what I did for the world. I feel like I'm always going to look back and say, I wouldn't do it again, but I'm really glad I did it. And I would have never made that movie had they not dropped the lawsuit. The lawsuit said to me, I learned that, they had control of all the local newspapers. And I figured, the only way to do it is the court of public world humans that actually care. And so, there was way too much evidence for me to sit there and watch people that seem relatively intelligent slandering me on their internet shows. And I just drew the line. It was like, you guys are so ill-informed, but it's not your fault. You're being lied to by people with a lot of money. And I had it. I'm just done. I'm done standing up for, anybody that hasn't stood up for me. I wish them all well. And I think that those who decide to stay in the old way, I wish them well. I'm not mad. I'm not going to get even with anyone. I just want to say bye-bye. Have a good life. And those of us that are moving forward, we have such great opportunities. We've got real news on your show. And, Alfred and I don't always agree on history and things, that are going on in politics, but that's why it's great to have two different people in two different countries with different outlooks, let alone a male and a female, because we have a really balanced show here with our perspectives, and we're both painfully honest with what we believe is true. So to the best of my ability, that movie is what I believe is true. And if it is true what David said and the employee said, then I did a lot of people a really big favor. But if David lied and somebody set me up with all those gem drops, well, that person is going to have to pay the piper too, because this has never been about me. But it certainly is about hiding my work, because I do tell the truth. I have won a lot of awards. When I was doing all the soundtracks, I played a big gold harp. So it's not like I'm really that little naughty girl that talks about all those bad words that aren't in my vocabulary. All those things they're blaming me for, yeah, that's nice, that's you guys, but this is me. I played harp for 33 years, and you can hear my harp music in a lot of my movies. That's why this one won Best Musical Score as well. But I'm not bragging about winning awards. I'm just saying they really lied about my work, and I've had it. I did it for the world. I didn't do it because I want to be famous or any of that crap. I could care less about fake alien stories or, oh my gosh, how about the mummies? That's a really good one. And there's a new movie out about the mummy thing that they did, but that's not my story. That's somebody else's story. But look at the evidence. Everything is available. You guys got to get it together. Get your discernment. And I got to tell you, the C60, it works. It just brings clarity back into your brain. I can't even believe as I look at you, I swear to God, you look even younger than last time we did a show, which was only a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So
I'm from the I'm from the universe. Bill Alec calls it the perpendicular universe, not the parallel universe. But anyway, it's well, look. Would you like to grace us with a short composition? We prepared a short outro of the Goddess Crop Circle with a short harp composition. Would that
Oh,
be?
nice.
Oh, good. So
You do all this beautiful work. Thank you, Alfred,
oh,
for
sure.
being the creative person with my creative work. Thank you.
Oh, totally. Here we go.
Bye, everyone.
And I just have to get the right things here.
Cue it, baby.